Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Amicable Divorce Discussion. My name is Tracy Grant. I'm the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network, and I'm joined today with another Tracy. We have a statistical anomaly in the Amicable Divorce Network in that we have several Tracys, and I am joined by Tracy Gould Sheinin, who is a mediator, a parent coordinator, has about 20 years of experience in dealing with conflict resolution, and is with Clarity Mediation. She has a background in psychology and peace studies, which is perfect for mediation and conflict resolution. And she finds that the more people that know what to expect in a mediation, the better it goes. A case that's right for mediation includes mental and emotional preparation and readiness, as well as having done all of your homework. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Is if you are a client and you are looking at mediation in your case, any type of family law case, Tracy is here today with tips on how to get prepared. Tracy, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I am always glad to talk to you, but I'm also always happy to talk about mediation, how it works, how to prepare. It's become just such a normal fabric of the legal world that more people are doing it than ever before, just as a normal thing. And so knowing what to expect and how to prepare can make a huge difference in the success of how it goes. So
definitely. I've been practicing about as long as you, 20 years. And when I first started, mediation wasn't the norm.
Yeah.
Two attorneys could agree to mediate, but it wasn't the standard. And so it's a great advancement for family law cases that almost everywhere going to mediation is now part of the standard fabric of a case. And it is I would say a benchmark of the amicable divorce process. We use any kind of dispute resolution to keep parties out of court, which is a huge piece of getting cases resolved outside the court system. Mediation is a big part of that, and parent coordination, which you also do. Tell us a little bit about your background and experience and what brought you to being a mediator.
Sure. So I first was introduced to mediation in Columbia, South Carolina. Some friends and people I was just getting to know were putting on a mediation training at a peace center. And I had never heard of mediation before. I'd heard of, they were also doing a conflict resolution training. And I knew what conflict was, I knew what resolution was, but I didn't know the concept of those two words together, what that meant. So I just took both. I was like, sure, I'll take it. I'll take this conflict resolution training and this mediation training. And it just really opened my eyes really wide to the way you can get through stuff, because who doesn't have conflict in their lives, right? So I fell in love essentially, and then just kept looking for opportunities to learn and practice. And at the time, this would have been the early mid-90s in Columbia, South Carolina. It just really wasn't happening very much, except in the schools, like in peer mediation. So a bunch of us got together and spent several years working really hard to build a nonprofit community mediation center that still is there today. It's now called the Midlands Mediation Center. But it's a really cool place where they see, and when I was director there, we saw anything and everything from family stuff to criminal stuff to school to community. It was really great. And I just kept going.
Yeah, what a great concept. So if a person's watching this and they have a family law issue that perhaps is already in the legal system or looks like it might need some type of legal resolution, whether that's an amicable process outside of the system or within the legal system, but they're facing mediation, what advice would you give them on how to start their mediation, be prepared in the best position possible?
Yeah, there are really 3 high points that I want to share, and it goes for the legal process. I mean, this stuff can really work in your hearing when you're in front of the judge too, but one is to do your homework. Another is to think about your priorities and be ready to negotiate. And the third is to pay attention to your mental health and your mindset to really be in the game. The homework is everything from better knowing your kid's schedule and what their expenses are. So if they have medical needs, what does that cost? What do you spend on your kids? So that goes into like the parenting side of things, but also connects to the financial side, obviously. And then there's a lot of homework to be done on the financial side. What do you earn? What do you spend? What do you have? And what do you owe? And most of us don't look at all of that in one setting. So it can be really illuminating, but you've got to know this stuff so that you can make smart decisions about your finances, because you're separating your finances in your divorce.
Exactly. I'm a mediator as well.
Yeah.
You probably see this too. One of the biggest hiccups I see in resolution is people not having the information they need to make decisions.
Yep.
When the mediation is the time to be making decisions. Yes. And currently, I would say one of the biggest areas is with the mortgage on the marital home, where people are approaching mediation or in the mediation and they haven't investigated, do they qualify to refinance or do an equity buyout or things of that nature. And you're making really serious decisions in mediation. So it's time to have all the ducks in a row.
For sure. And then similarly on the retirement side of it, not all retirement accounts are the same. So an IRA is very different from a 401k, from a pension. So knowing what you have is step one, but then talking to a financial planner, a certified divorce financial planner, on what it would look like to divide some of those accounts up, because we're going to have different impacts in the short term and the long term. And you don't want to guess around with that stuff. You want good financial advice. Yeah.
Exactly. In the Amicable Divorce Network, we have about any kind of professional that a person could need to assist them with getting ready for this very important mediation stage. Touching on the retirement accounts, I see time and time again where people simply haven't taken the time to figure out how much was in the account at the time they got married. And they're leaving money on the table because they could very easily, probably might take a little bit of time, but if you plan ahead, you can get that statement, take that to mediation and preserve some of those funds, which in Georgia are considered premarital, which is where my practice is. And I know you are as well. So doing homework on the front end can not just make you prepared, but would you agree also reduce anxiety of the negotiation?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes into that third piece of mindset, because the more you know, then you're feeling more confident about even just having the conversation. And then you feel more confident to ask questions, because you feel less dumb, if you will, because you're like, no, I know all of these things. It's just this one thing or these two things I'm not sure about. So it really can boost the confidence and make the conversation go a lot better, a lot more effectively.
Yeah, I think if people approach mediation knowing sort of what they need, what they have identified those items and know what their goals are, they're setting themselves up for success, to know if the offers being made are within the ballpark, so to speak, for resolution for them and for their needs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's perfectly okay to show up and not have had all the information yet, but narrowing it down at the very least is a great start. And it's not uncommon that one spouse is sort of the money person, the bill payer, and the other one is not. So that just means that the one that is not's got a little bit more homework to do, but ideally both parties have all the same up-to-date information.
Yes, and it's okay to have more than one mediation. If you need to hit the pause button and say, we are going to make a list of the information we're going to gather, and we're going to come back to this mediation, however much time that takes, 30 days as an example, that's fine as well. Don't put so much pressure on yourself as the party going through the divorce that you have to reach a resolution on that day. That's right. That just adds another layer of stress, right?
Yes, for sure, for sure.
So and for people when you go watching, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you go into the mediation, I was going to hit on point 2 about setting up your priorities, because again, we don't normally think of these things in everyday life, but if you're going to start talking about dividing your stuff and your schedules and your parenting time and all the things that happen in a divorce, then you want to think ahead. Okay, what is really, really, really important to me and I really, really want, versus something that, yeah, I kind of want it, but I don't have to have it, versus something I could live without. So try to think through those things in something of a range. So when it comes to discussing it, it's not completely overwhelming.
Like wants and needs.
Yes.
need
Yes.
is the highest priority, but I'd want a few of these little extra things would be nice.
Yes, exactly. Because make no mistake, even the most amicable discussion in a mediation is still a negotiation.
Yes.
And I encourage my clients to do both of them, to do that, to think about what you really, really need or want, so that when we have this negotiation, it can be respectful and productive,
Mhm.
but you're putting your priorities first and letting go of things that maybe you don't really want so much.
And when an attorney is involved, I would say make sure that you communicate your goals to your attorney. And if you feel like you're approaching mediation and they don't have a clear understanding of your goals and your wants and your needs, make sure that you have that appointment prior to mediation. When you're having those discussions in the mediation, your attorney may not be prepared. And it costs more time because the mediator is on that dime. So make sure that your attorney is your team member and that they're prepared to negotiate definitely for your needs and capture some of those wants.
That's right. That's right. They may assume that you want one thing when it's really not that important to you, and you don't want them arguing that line, and it ends up being a waste of time and money. Yeah,
exactly. Make sure you're on the same page with your game plan. Do you have any other tips for parties preparing for mediation?
So the third one is just about getting your head in the game in the best way possible. This is such a stressful life event. I can't overstate that enough. So it's so important that you eat healthy, you exercise. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just take walks outside, but move your body, work out the tension and stress. If you've never meditated before, now is a great time to start. It can really calm you down. And then when you head into the mediation, you're going to be physically better prepared to have that conversation. You're not going to like completely panic out as much as if you weren't taking care of yourself. Some folks find it a good time to start journaling so they can write down their thoughts and questions in a way that doesn't explode the conversation. Some people find it really useful to take on some deep breathing techniques. So when the conversation gets stressful, they don't just lose their mind, but they can take a couple deep breaths, get back down and say something rational. And then don't be afraid to take a break. If it's feeling overwhelming and you can't quite organize your thoughts, ask for a break, stand up, get some fresh air, and then come back to it again. You're going to have a much better experience.
Another huge benefit we've seen with Zoom mediation is people can mediate from their home. They can have their pet with them. They can get a cup of tea. They're in a very nice, comfortable environment. So I know that I've had some parties really express how much that helped them with the stress of the mediation to be in their own environment. So that's something to consider as well. People do still mediate in person and in attorneys' offices or in courthouses and all of these different types of things, but online mediation is also an option as well.
Yes. Yeah, it can relieve a lot. There's no traffic, there's no parking. You can wear your comfy clothes.
Especially here in Atlanta, that'll save you a heartache and an hour at a time to not have to deal with traffic. So if people are watching today and they would like to reach out to you and learn more or use you as a mediator or a parent coordinator, how can they reach you?
They can visit my website at claritymediation.net. They can email me at tracy@claritymediation.net. That's TRACY. And I'm reachable for both of those.
Sounds great. We are both a TRACY, and that is it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to educate us on how to prepare for mediation.
Thanks for having me.